What's going on, guys? It's Mike for Sim Racing 604. Welcome back to rFactor 2. Welcome on board the Callaway C7.R as part of the Endurance Pack DLC for rFactor 2. We have Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe, all to ourselves today, and we're just going to try out this pack. Today is June 15th, 2018, and we're going to try all 5 cars in the DLC pack. And yeah, just do a couple quick laps here around Le Mans. We'll do an out lap and then sort of a faster lap just to get an impression of the cars. We will drive all 5. So there is a Callaway Corvette already as part of official release as part of rFactor 2. It came as part of the GT3 release, and I really like that car. So I'd be curious to see how this stacks up. And so far it feels really good. Love that sound. I've got the sound turned quite far down so you can actually hear me. But rest assured, it does sound very nice. And this thing handles like an absolute dream. And we will, of course, drive the Porsche 991 RSR. And then follow that up with the M8. The M8, perhaps the most sort of featured car as part of the media for the DLC pack. Corvette handles like, or the Callaway I should say, handles like it's on rails. This is incredible. Very nice car. I look forward to some pretty awesome races here. For those not aware, I guess I'll say this right off the top. rFactor 2 is, along with... Sorry, I just got to adjust my mirrors here. That's going to drive me crazy. Whoops. I pressed the wrong one. I can't remember what I've got mapped to my mirrors. But anyway, perhaps along with Automobilist, I consider it really an underrated sim. In the world of sim racing, almost everybody knows rFactor 2, but in the sort of gaming world, it's not very popular. It ranks pretty low in terms of concurrent Steam users, but I have a feeling that if people actually got to try it, they'd be a lot happier with it. It's a phenomenal sim. It has, progressive weather, it has progressive time. A lot of the boxes that most sims try and check, this game has it. This sim has it rather, and still it gets very minimal love. So I try to support the team at Studio 397 where I can. The GT3 cars are phenomenal. Sure, the field is small. I think there's only 5 GT3 cars available in official release for rFactor 2. But they're all great. They're all really great. And do you really need, a dozen or more GT3 cars? Probably not. So it does a lot of things very right. Not to mention it's moddable. There's a ton of mods out there. Base content is perhaps a little bit lacking, but not terrible. But again, it's moddable, so you can tag whatever you want in there. Alright, let's see if we can build some heat in these tires through this fast section here. And then we'll try and get away. Qualifying for the 24 Hours of Le Mans this weekend is complete. And the GTE cars, I believe pole is around 347 for the GTE Pro class. GTE AM came in at about 350. So I'll be trying probably for like a sub 4. And this is a modded Le Mans track. This is the 2013 version, I believe. So I don't know if the length is the same, so take my timing with a grain of salt, please. Alright, we're away on our first lap here. You will not be seeing Kobayashi numbers, unlike my previous video in the FSR. remarkably stable under acceleration, actually. I have everything set to default, but I will check my ABS and traction control settings once I'm headed down Mulsanne. Let's get her up into 6th gear, and then I'll check that. Alright, so it was set to off, ABS off, traction control. I'll keep them both off to see if I can get an accurate handle on how this thing, get a grip on how, you know what I'm saying, get a sense of how this car actually handles. I read yesterday what the ABS and traction control limits were for GTE, but I can't actually remember off the top of my head. I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to getting into the RSR, but I can't imagine it being much better in terms of drivability than this. This is an absolutely phenomenal car. They really nailed it. Oh, bit of understeer there. Shade of understeer, nothing too bad. And yeah, based on my current time, I think I will be somewhere in the low 4s, maybe 410. And too early on the brakes there. I would need some time with this car if I want to break 4 minutes. Not to mention, I think I have a pretty decent fuel load here. No setup whatsoever, and I'm running the default tires, whatever those happen to be. So I'm not too concerned about my time here. 275 kilometers an hour as we enter this fast right-hander here. And I just could not be more happy with this car. It's brilliant. Again, I just had that slight bit of understeer. But that chicane is really strange. It kind of goes over a hump, so you know, you're dealing with camber as well. And this will be a decent proving ground. You saw the back end kick out only slightly there. And again, yeah, there's that understeer. Very impressive car. I really like this thing. And again, I think the Porsche and the BMW M8, I'm going to have to be really blown away by them in order to beat this. This is absolutely incredible. What a great car. Final lap time will be a
4:12.17.
There you go. He says it better than me. All right, so that was the Callaway C7.R, and man, just my mind is blown. What a great car. All right, let's jump into the next. All right, guys. So the Porsche 911 or 991 RSR now leaving the pits. So yes, very iconic car. It's become somewhat commonplace in sim racing. I remember a year ago, and I talked about this in the iRacing RSR video. I talked about this, previously I talked about how previously we did not have the RSR in any capacity in sim racing because I think it was EA. They had a lockdown on the Porsche name, so it couldn't make it to sim racing. But now it's everywhere. more or less everywhere. We have it in official release for Assetto Corsa. We have it in official release for Project Cars 2, iRacing, and now rFactor 2. Now, keep in mind, we did have this in unofficial release for rFactor 2 via the Endurance Series pack, which I really, really like. That's a free pack, so if you are not able to buy the Endurance DLC pack for monetary reasons, because you're looking at about €15 or about $20 Canadian, you can look at the Endurance Series pack. It is a great, great pack. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Nice looking interior here inside this Porsche. Sounds are great. Sounds are great. Very reminiscent of the iRacing version. Handling is tremendous. I'd expect no less. Let's see what we got here. ABS off. Traction control off. And I like that distance gauge in the rear view camera there. And let's see if the understeer that was present in the Callaway is also present with the RSR. Far less. And I stomped on the accelerator coming out of there intentionally to see if I could induce some oversteer, and it didn't do it. So this thing seems pretty glued to the ground, which is remarkable. So most of you, I'm sure, skipped ahead to see what my impressions are of the RSR. I think you will not be disappointed. Looks, sound, handling, all incredible. All really, really incredible. Again, I go back to the Callaway being just mind-blowingly good. And this is on par or better, I gotta say. Just blown away here by the work of Studio 397. And I'm leaving a lot in the corners. My corner entry is very, very timid. It's because I don't know the car and I choose not to push it through the grass. But there's a lot of time to be gained. I think probably with very, very little effort, I could get into the fours once I get used to the handling of the car. Get a little more confidence with it. Whoop. Nice. Nice. Boy, do I love this car. And we haven't even started our fast lap yet. All right, we are away. I'm going to try and push this a bit harder than I pushed the Callaway. Feeling a little more confident in what they've done with the sort of physics of these cars. Even with traction control off, it's surprisingly stable. I would say traction control off, this car feels more stable than it does in iRacing. But my suggestion is you don't take my word for it. There's going to be guys showing up on your channel very, very soon that have either real-world driving experience that can actually speak to how this handles versus iRacing, or come from a place in sim racing, i.e. Michi Hoyer, to render judgment properly. But from the layman's perspective, I just really can't express how happy I am that this endurance pack is out and how wonderfully they handle. It's just mind-blowingly good. I would put this RSR or the Callaway on par with anything I've ever driven. Oddly enough, the Callaway Corvette for race room is one of my all-time favorite cars, and I think rFactor 2 has done an equally fantastic job with this endurance pack. You know, the Formula Ultimate in Automobilista is up there on my list as well. What else? Lanzo V12 for Assetto Corsa. And this ranks alongside any of them. The GT3 pack I really like for rFactor 2. I didn't like it at first, but I came to like it. But I would say this holds a pretty sizable advantage over those cars, for me anyway, just in terms of likability, drivability of the cars. That iconic buzzing sound from the transmission is very much present. They've done a great job. I know I'm blubbering here, guys, but I just can't tell you how good this car is. It's just phenomenal. But again, wait for Nicky Team, wait for Michi Hoyer, guys like that, to get their hands on these cars and see what they think. They could probably give you a better, accurate depiction of how these things drive. But for me, it's $22 Canadian, very well spent. I apologize if you can hear those Discord sounds. I do apologize. Forgot to close the app before I actually booted into the game, so my apologies. And finishing up our lap here.
That was a 407.72.
And a very enjoyable 407. So yeah, 4 is possible with a tiny bit of tuning here. Loving this car. And let's move on to the BMW M8. All right, guys. So the BMW M8 making its debut. As far as I know, this is the debut in sim racing altogether. So looking forward to this drive for sure. Again, they've surrounded this car with a lot of publicity leading up to the release of the endurance pack, and let's see if it lives up to the hype. I personally believe, based on driving the Callaway and the Porsche, that it absolutely will, but we'll see shortly. Very different sound than what I'm used to here in this game. I love those shift lights. Very, very obvious when you need to hit your shift. Oh, what a sound. And the physics of this car seem quite a bit different than the Callaway or the Porsche. It's a bit more jumpy for sure. I think the default gearing is a bit different, because I wasn't hitting 5th down this little section here before, I don't believe. So I'm likely going to redline 6th gear down the Mulsanne straight. Let's see what we got for the ABS is off. Traction control is off, confirming. Alright, so I left 6th gear pretty wide open, so I will hit my sort of requisite 275, same as the other GTE cars. Nicely tuned to Le Mans, as you might well expect. braking seems a bit tighter, actually. It seems a bit better. It's perhaps a bit more loose than the other two cars, but stopping power does seem increased, or it could be a figment of my imagination. I'm not sure. And one more time into the chicane. And yeah, there we go. See, I took too much off it with that braking power. And not even a hint of understeer. Wow. Loving it. So I'm going to drive this one pretty deep into the corner here. I think my tire temps are just fine. 40s and 50s should be okay. And given the stopping power, I think I can brake a little bit later here. That was pretty unaggressive in terms of braking. I could have stomped on it a bit more. Didn't want to lose the rear end though, because I have no idea what my brake bias is set to. And it's nice what they've done here. It seems great. It's something I found with the Endurance Series pack, and granted it's free, but and I really love it. But it did feel like the physics were a bit too sort of homologated. Even though the specs are homologated, the physics should be quite different car to car. And I found that in some cases with the Endurance Series pack, and again, not dumping on it, I really like the Endurance Series pack. It did feel like the physics were kind of lumped in, and if you could drive one, you could drive them all. But I would say this M8 does feel different than the other two. I would say the changes between the Callaway and the Porsche were minimal, but this one is quite a different feeling car. So nicely done once again to Studio 397 in that regard. Oh, just about lost it there. Yeah, I really struggled through that section there. Gonna have to take some time to get used to this car. And please don't take this as I'm saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's actually a very good thing. It handles different. Bit of a learning curve. But just the fact that I could get it around Le Mans first time, I think speaks to the drivability of the car. By the way, if anybody has an updated version of Circuit de la Sarthe, if they could send it to me. I believe what VEC was running was a updated version of this track. Or not send it to me, rather send me a link. I would really appreciate it. Mighty peaceful out here at Le Mans. Track to myself. BMW M8. And I'm going to try and brake a bit later into this chicane here. Let's see what just past 100 does. That was it. So that's much later, at least at the default setup, than I was able to get with the Callaway or the Porsche. I don't know what this is going to translate to in terms of lap time. Of course, I'm just doing my sort of break-in laps. The lap times won't mean much, but I'm curious if it comes in dramatically far or behind. Excuse me, in front of or behind the RSR. And we've swapped understeer for oversteer in that chicane. But the thing about oversteer in rFactor 2 is it's so easily caught. They've done such a good job with the handling model that you just feel the movement of the car. You sort of feel the weight of the car through the wheel, and you're able to catch slides pretty easily. And again, too early on the braking there. I'm just in love with the fact that there's a learning curve here. Every car has a learning curve, of course, but the swing between the RSR and this M8, quite dramatic. Whoa, there we go, off in the weeds. Wow, I have no brake pressure at all. What's going on here? That was weird. Now how can I find my way back? Oh, there it is. Shout out to the modding team who did not cut corners here. Cut corners, get it? But they actually bothered modeling just a field, just a random field. Alright, so a bit embarrassing here in the M8. I tried to get more aggressive with my braking distance. Paid the price. Okay, so I'm going to do one more lap. You can feel free to skip ahead if you wish. Thank goodness for runaway lanes. I might have been sim killed. Or at least sim injured. But again, I think this speaks to the fact that they do drive differently. Had I been able to jump in this car and just immediately, you know, turn it around in like a 410, you know, bring it in with the other GTE cars, with no difference in handling, I'd be a little miffed. That's not the case. The fact that there's a learning curve and I, you know, went off track with this is a good thing ultimately. All right, here we go again. Lap number 3, and this will be my last lap if I crash this time. Too bad, so sad. And if you're wondering, by the way, and I was going to get into this when I talk about the LMP cars, but since you're kind enough to stick around after my terrible driving, I will just explain why they did not include LMP1. Well, actually, I don't have an exact reason. I've never actually heard officially from Studio 397, but probably a motivating factor for those not aware is the fact that LMP1 is going away. I believe 2020-2021 is the final season for LMP1. They're moving to hypercars, apparently. That's the word I'm getting. Anyway, GTE, as far as I know, will not change. But I think what will change is the LMP1 class is going away and it'll be replaced by hypercars. So if you're excited to see, you know, Paganis perhaps, or, you know, like the McLaren Senna or something like that race at Le Mans, you may get that chance. I, for one, I'm not too excited about it. I think it'll look great in my YouTube thumbnails, and it'll probably get me a lot of clicks. But other than that, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the LMP1 cars. I think they represent, for those, you know, who have followed the channel for some time, you know, I'm a nerd at heart, and I love technology, and I love, you know, seeing how things work and why they work. And, you know, the Porsche 919 with its V4 engine and, you know, ultimately churning out in the neighborhood of 1,000 horsepower. You know, that's the kind of thing that excites me. And there's, you know, a lot of engineering and a lot of technology behind hypercars, don't get me wrong, but I like the prototype cars. I like the fact that engineers just kind of go wild in the lab and produce something as iconic as the Toyota TS050, you know. Yeah, and it's very distinct looking as well. I don't, you know, whether you're a fan of the look of an LMP1 car or not is, of course, very subjective, but I like the looks of it. I think it just kind of nicely represents automotive research. So, yeah, a bit sad to see it go. But we got a few more good years. The question is, will Kobayashi's lap stand? Will that 3:14.791, was that the time? 3:14 and change anyway, a little under 3:15. Will that stand? Who knows? Seems like if they go hypercar, then it would. I can't see somebody beating that in a hypercar. No runaway lane this time. You saw I took it pretty easy there. And hard on the accelerator coming out. By the way, speaking of hard on the accelerator, there's definitely more finesse required in this M8, certainly than the RSR. The Callaway had a bit of, on-throttle oversteer, but not too bad at all. But this M8, it's definitely present. So make sure before you drive this that you have your force feedback kind of dialed in. Make sure you can feel and catch those slides. So thoughts on the M8, final thoughts on the M8. I'm more in love with what Studio 397 has done with the car physics than I am with driving the car. The Callaway and the RSR, as mentioned, just mind-blowingly good. They really are. I love the handling of those cars. It just kind of suits my driving style nicely. The M8, not so much in terms of drivability, but I do love the fact that... what was that? Oh, I didn't get a time. Oh well. I do love the fact that they changed up the physics, and it's a very different driving car. It sounds great. It's, a great looking interior and things like that. Just doesn't suit my driving style as much, but it is kind of fun to work with the oversteer. So not a bad car by any means, but probably if I had to rank the cars, I would say RSR, the GTE cars so far, the RSR, then the Callaway, and then the M8. But all three very, very good in their own respects. All right, let's get out of here. We're going to jump into the prototype cars. We'll start with the LMP3. See you back here in a second. All right, guys, welcome on board the Norma M30 LMP3 car here in rFactor 2. As you can see, you got the nice Cosworth steering wheel ahead of me there. So this is a LMP3 class car, meaning it's a bit slower than the LMP1 or LMP2 cars, but it's kind of that Goldilocks. I talked about when I did my review of the Formula 3 car recently for Assetto Corsa. I mentioned you're kind of in that Goldilocks state where it doesn't have the sort of blinding power and difficult driving of the Formula 1 car, but you still get really, really good open wheel performance. And that's kind of how I feel about LMP3. And I've just been completely derailed in my thoughts by the incredible sounds of this car. Listen to that engine. I might have it turned down too low, but that engine just roars. Yes, love it. Absolutely fantastic. So slung really, really low here, and you can definitely feel that in VR. Feels like you're sitting right on the ground. Very bumpy car. Gearing not really set up for Mulsanne. We've peaked here at 270. I'm going to brake quite late here. These prototype cars have excellent, excellent braking. And I don't know that I've heard many better sounding cars in rFactor 2. They definitely crush the sound aspect, at least. In terms of drivability, yeah, it's very, very good. Doesn't leave you wanting, that's for sure. Let's check our anti-lock braking and traction control. So we should be good to go now. I keep virtually pressing that drink button, but I'm not getting anything. Still thirsty. Whoa. Very early in the morning here in Western Canada. I got up extra early here. Really looking forward to this endurance pack, and it has not disappointed in the slightest. So yeah, that thirst is for coffee. So I think based on what I've seen so far, I think this should be pretty much on pace with the GTE cars. There's a slight straight line advantage for the GTE cars, but a braking and cornering advantage for this LMP3. Whoa. Okay. As I say that, I completely miss a corner. And this is where it's going to get fun. I have a feeling the handling will be really nice through here. Might have taken too much off the speed there. Handling is incredibly responsive. Yes. Excellent, excellent handling car. The errors you're seeing are just strictly me not being used to the car. And I just can't get over how nice this car sounds. Saw the rear end try to kick out there. That was me being too aggressive. And we're away on our lap here. Such a pleasure to drive. Wow. Little tendency to oversteer, but easily caught. Actually, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say it's a tendency. It's just kind of me trying to find the limits of the car. I would say we are ahead time-wise versus the GTEs. Powering down this straight here. I wonder if I can get that windshield wiper any lower. Nope, that's where it's just gonna rest. Okay, not necessarily in my way, but we are sitting at just past 2 minutes here. So I believe I should be in or around the 4-minute mark all told. completely missed my braking point there. Oh, no, 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 no. Ah. Oh, man. I don't actually know how much damage I took there. Car feels fine. Well, that stinks. I haven't noticed any adverse effects, so I think I will bring it around one more time. Nice looking interior here. Very prototypey, Spartan as I like to say. Still kicking myself for getting on the throttle too soon there. Putting the car into a wall. These curbs really throw you around here. Alright, one more go here. And just the same as the M8, I will just do one more lap, regardless of the outcome.
That lap was a 4:11.66.
So yeah, crashing notwithstanding, I would have been in the low fours. And babying it a bit more this time. Coming out of corners. Yeah, I hit a bump there. Hit a bump that pulled my tires to the left, so I was, ended up missing that apex. And down about 0.4 seconds on the previous. And I have hit my limit at 270. Gave up a whole bunch of time there through that chicane. Now down a half second. Although that number is falling, getting back to that 0.4 that I was coming into Mulsanne straight. And made quite a bit of that time back there. Cut the differential in half roughly. Now it's falling off sharply. Oh well. Okay. Apply a little more late braking here. All right. I was able to right my wrongs there. Bit late braking into that corner. Managed to squeeze it through though. So again, most of this just comes back to the fact that I don't know the car. Oh, come on, Mike. Ugh, this is painful. Apologies, guys. The LMP3. It's a wonderful car. I just can't drive it. We have the LMP2 coming up to wrap up the pack. Just love the handling of this car through the fast section here. Whoa, 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 whoa. A little wide there. No, not again. All right, guys. So I need more practice with my LMP3 driving. This car deserves better. It was a lot of fun to drive. Great handling. Just needs a bit more finesse from me. All right, let's jump into the LMP2 Oreca. All right, guys. So here we are, the final car of this endurance pack. I've been so happy with the endurance pack so far. And this Oreca is the LMP2 car. And we'll conclude my review of this pack. So I'm going to go ahead and disable, my assists to get a better feel of the car. And like 0 body roll. That's amazing. You can set your watch to the fact that this car is level. I'm sitting up pretty high, actually. I can't really see my wheel too well. So cold tires notwithstanding, liking the handling so far. Again, I mentioned the LMP3 was kind of in the Goldilocks in terms of Goldilocks state in terms of handling. You know, you're not fighting a car around the track. LMP2, very much it is a fight. LMP1 is a fist fight. I find those cars very hard to drive at their limit. Not that I can really get them to their limit, but you know what I mean. So a new speed record with this pack. We're approaching 300, 295 anyway, 6, 7, 8. So close to 300 kilometers an hour there with the stock setup. So this will be a sub 4-minute car for sure. Car feels very stable. Sound doesn't blow my mind like the LMP3 car did, but very accurate to the LMP2 sound. You can see that speed at the bottom of the screen there, just climbing through the roof. Amazing how fast this thing is. And much more suited to my driving style than was the LMP3. Approaching 300 again. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh. And the sand in rFactor 2 is no joke. So smack that wall pretty hard. I don't know how much damage I've taken. Apologies for the bad driving once again, folks. These are actually my first time driving this car, so I'm not surprised there's mistakes. And yeah, my seat position right now is useless. The mirrors, I can't see anything in the mirrors. All I see is trees. I do have damage turned on, but funny enough, I can't feel any ill effects of smacking that wall there. All right, we are away. Let's see if we can break 4 minutes here to finish this up on a positive note. Speaking of positive, I have nothing really here but good to say about this pack, this endurance pack. Phenomenal cars. I'm really looking forward to sinking my teeth into specifically the RSR. And probably this car. I really want to know what this can do once I get used to the handling. And I was just mind blown by the Callaway right from the start. M8 doesn't love my driving style. LMP3, I need some more practice, but I think I could come to love that. But all in all, just yeah, it definitely gets my endorsement. I think they've done a great job with this pack. Overshot the corner completely there, or chicane rather. And yeah, we will be just under 4 minutes, I believe. Probably about a 4:55. And this car just takes a slight hesitation on corner exit, and then you can mat it. Got to get the wheels rolling and get the steering wheel somewhat lined up down the track and then pin it. The RSR was very forgiving in that regard. You could pretty much just pin it at will. Yay, made it out of the trouble section. All right, so final sector here, guys. Finish this up and conclude the video. Absolute thumbs up all around. Some really great cars, some cars I need to work on a bit more. But yes, the iconic RSR, which I'm sure most of you are here for, spot on. Did a great job with it. Can't say enough good things about it. Despite that butchery of a turn, I do really like this Oreca LMP2 car as well. I predicted 355.
353.29.
And I wasn't too far off. Thanks so much, guys, for watching Endurance Pack DLC. Now out. It's phenomenal. Enjoy.